Welcome to episode number 37 of Broad Street Fanatics. I am here with my co-host Cameron Bogdanoff, and uh, we have a special guest, Danielle Chero,
Yeah,
and she's on to talk about the current situation that is going on with the Phillies, and definitely looking forward to talking to her about this upcoming Eagles season. So welcome, Danielle.
thank you. I'm glad to be here.
So my first question is, what were your thoughts on this past series against the Cubs?
Terrible. I don't really understand what's going on. I don't understand what the bullpen's doing. I don't understand why we can't get many hits. We always seem to struggle against bad teams. I don't know if it's time to shake things up. I know the young guys are on a roll for a bit, but that seems to come to an end. So I guess we'll see what the next series brings. But I wasn't a fan against the Chicago Cubs.
What do you see the Phillies doing once the trade deadline happens?
Honestly, that is a great question. I don't see them making many moves. I don't feel like there's many holes besides the bullpen we need to fix. I don't really know how much cap space there is for the Phillies. So I don't see any like earth shattering moves being made, but maybe just something to shake it up a little bit. That would be nice.
Uh, what are your expectations for August and September when they have to play games to fight for the last wildcard spot?
I do think they're going to turn it on. I do think there's a lot of fight in the team. I think there's a lot of ups and downs. We've had a lot going on with Girardi. I feel like they're trying to find an identity right now. But I think when it comes time to have to play, I think they'll show up. I do have faith. I'm hoping for a red October. So that's where we're going.
Cam, you want to do the next question?
Okay.
What were your thoughts on Jim Salisbury's comments to Nick Castellanos?
That one was quite an interesting situation. I kind of thought it was a standard run of the mill question, to be honest. I don't think it made Castellanos look the greatest. I was more floored about the aftermath, about the fighting that occurred between reporters online. I kind of thought it was a standard question. Of course, they're going to ask what your reaction was to the fans booing. I think Castellanos was just not in a good mood, but I was more shocked at the aftermath of that question than the question itself.
So moving off topic for a little, what is the most what are you looking forward to the most once training camp gets underway for the Eagles?
Oh, I am so excited to see how AJ Brown and Devontae Smith work together. I am so excited just to kind of see how this team gels. I'm very excited to see how Jalen shows up. I know he's not the guy, but I think he's going to do well until we find the guy, especially with the weapons we have around him right now. So I'm just very excited to see what develops and see the chemistry. It seems like the team already has kind of good basis of that. And I think once training camp gets underway, we're going to see that grow. And I'm very excited.
What are your thoughts on the additions for Bradbury and helping out Darius Slay at safety?
I think that's exactly what we needed. I think that's always been kind of a weak point for us. And I think that's exactly what we needed. Slay is never a concern, in my opinion. He's solid. He's everywhere you need him to be. And I think the fact that now he has help, I think that I don't have a lot of faith in Howie, but then he always does something that pulls me right back in. And I think Howie filled in all of the gaps we needed. And he did not go for a quarterback. So I think giving Slay some help with safety was perfect.
What are your thoughts on how Nick Sirianni will handle his team?
Let's hope he runs the ball. Let's start with that. But I think it was a learning curve for him, just like it was for anyone else. He's a young coach, new coach. But you could see him kind of grow every game. You saw his game plans develop and change every game. There's really good chemistry between him and Jalen. I've already seen videos of them together so far. And I think that now he has a little bit more of a veteran presence in the locker room to kind of also give him a hand. I think it's going to be a good year for Sirianni. And I think that's just going to bleed into a good year for us.
Mhm. Do you see the Eagles winning the division?
I do. I think Giants didn't have a terrible offseason.
Mhm.
Dallas is always going to be a first round exit. They're always going to be the shoulda, coulda, woulda. Not saying that
Mhm.
as an Eagles fan, just I don't think they've done enough to make me concerned. I have a feeling we're going to go 12-5. That's what I'm going with. And I do think we're going to win the division.
So my next question is, what are your thoughts on how the draft prospects will do and get rolling with the Eagles as a whole?
I'm excited, honestly. I think the draft prospects are great. I think Howie handled this draft absolutely perfectly. He drafted some solid strength where we needed it. Big fan of Nakobe Dean. And then additionally, he kind of packaged up the additional picks to get some veteran presence in there. So I think we're going to have a good balance. I think we have people that are coming in from the draft that are solid and young, but they have good veteran presence to look up to. So I think it's going to be a pretty promising year for the rookies. So that's what I'm hoping for.
How do you think the rest of the NFC East is going to play out?
I think Dallas is going to get at least 10 wins. They sit around a 10-win team for me. I think New York's going to get a little bit better than they were. I'm very intrigued to see how Washington does with Wentz. I don't foresee them being studs or a concern of ours. I'm more so just intrigued to see how they play for more than anything, but I'm not worried about them.
What are your thoughts on the rest of the league and how the West will play out?
I think it's going to be a tough year. I sit at 12-5, but I really think if you had to ask my honest opinion, I think it's Buffalo's year. I think Buffalo is stacked. I wouldn't be shocked if we saw Buffalo take it all. Very intrigued to see the Jets, believe it or not. They had a pretty solid offseason. So very intrigued to see how that turned out for them. Minnesota had a decent one as well, but I don't know. I think it's going to be a tough year. I think everyone kind of had a pretty decent draft, especially the teams we didn't think would. But my money's on Buffalo. If it's not us, it's Buffalo. And I'm okay with that.
What do you think Buffalo's record is going to be?
If I'm saying we're 12-5, they're going at least 13-4. I wouldn't be surprised if they at least 13 wins. They were really good. They had a great offseason. I don't foresee them getting worse. That game versus Kansas City was one of the best games I've ever seen. And I just think they're coming to play with a chip on their shoulder. I think they thought this was their year too, and they just didn't fulfill their destiny. So I have a feeling that they're just going to come out even better than they were last year.
What do you think we're going to see from Kansas City without Tyreek Hill?
Honestly, I think they're going to be just fine. I'm a little upset. I kind of wanted him, but it's Kansas City. I think they're going to be just fine. It's Patrick Mahomes. They're going to be A-okay. I would be surprised if they looked any worse, honestly. It's Kansas City. They're kind of going for like a dynasty right now.
Yeah.
So moving on to a little hockey talk, what were your thoughts on the Flyers getting Tony DeAngelo?
I can honestly tell you, I haven't really paid attention to the Flyers this offseason. Well, this season
Oh,
in general,
mhm,
because I feel like they just don't have an identity.
mhm.
Like they're so flat. There's not much going on.
Yeah.
The fact that they didn't make a solid push, we got rid of Drew, which everyone knew
Mhm,
was coming. But the fact that we didn't make a solid push for Johnny Hockey when this is where he wanted to be, and that would have helped us tremendously. That would have given us leadership. That kid is so fast and so talented that was what I wanted on my roster. And the fact that Chuck just didn't even try just killed my interest. I don't
mhm.
know what's going on with them right now, but I usually watch every game, and I think I watched like 5 games last year.
Do you think that they will be a playoff team in the next 3 years?
I don't. I really think that unless they clean house, I think the problem starts from the top down there. I think it's leadership. And I loved Drew, and I'm probably going to get so much hate for this. Um, but he was a great captain, but again, necessarily wasn't our answer by himself. And I think his leadership was there for so long, and we didn't make the necessary changes around him that
Mhm,
right now all of the leadership is coming down as white noise because it's just the same thing over and over again. I don't foresee us, unless we completely tear it down and rebuild, we're going to be stuck in mediocrity for the next 5 to 10 years.
mhm. Speaking of like captain, as Drew was in the past, this upcoming season, who do you see the nucleus of the team?
Honestly, it seems like I would go with Kevin Hayes. It
Mhm,
just kind of seems like everyone naturally turns to him as a leader, and he seems to be the voice of the locker room right now, especially when that drama kind of happened. So I wouldn't be surprised if Kevin Hayes is the new face of the franchise for a little bit, at least the unofficial face of the franchise. So I'm going to go with Kevin Hayes.
uh, I'm I was thinking while you were talking, and I think that maybe it's either Kevin Hayes or um I forget how to pronounce his last name. Uh, Ross. It starts with the R.
Mm, what number is he?
I forget which number, but
Let's take a look at the roster. I wouldn't be. Who did we just pick up that everyone was like appalled at?
um,
Let's see.
oh yeah, I totally forgot we have
Oh,
Sean Couturier.
Couturier. He would be a
Yeah.
good one. He's a veteran, so he would be a good one. That wouldn't shock me, honestly. Rosters.
Oh, it's Bristol Lion.
Oh, Risto.
Yeah.
That would be a good one.
Yeah.
That would be a good one. He's a huge presence on the ice, so
Mhm.
I wouldn't be upset with that if he became the leader.
What do you think about Troy Gusnick?
Kind of in a wait and see situation.
Yeah.
Kind of how I'm feeling about all of it right now is kind of like a wait and see because it's not so much necessarily the players I doubt, it's what they're going to do with
Mhm.
them. So we'll see.
Are you going to plan on going to any games this season?
I want to say I'm not, but I know I can't stay away, so I definitely will, just like I did
Mhm.
last year. So I definitely probably make a couple appearances, usually for like the bigger games. Like I like to see Boston Bruins when they're in town, the Rangers.
Mhm.
I always love a good Pittsburgh Penguins game just because the energy is incredible. So I'd probably make exceptions for those, especially for divisional.
Mhm.
But I won't be in attendance for as many as I used to be. But I can't stay away, so I'll be there for some.
Yeah, I assume you'll be there for more Sixers games.
Absolutely. Yes,
Yeah.
I will be there for as many Sixers games as I possibly can.
What do you think? What do you think about the um, new Sixer Stadium coming?
I'm intrigued. I'm curious to see how that's going to work with the parking.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, it's definitely going to bring business to that area of the city, considering look how busy South Philly is when there's a home game, so it'll bring business to different parts of the city, which is great. Very intrigued to see how they're going to do it with parking, and they're going to have to kind of rework the entire infrastructure for SEPTA and
Mhm.
pretty much everything else because the one train runs like, I'm being dramatic, but it feels like once a year. So I don't know how they're going to work that out. So I'm more so intrigued to see the logistics, but I kind of like the idea of it. But I also like the convenience of having all of our stadiums in one area.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of torn. Like, I think it's good for the city business
Mhm.
wise, but selfishly, I like having everything in one little spot. I think it's cool that we have that.
Mhm.
What are your thoughts on the additions this past trade deadline for the Sixers?
Honestly, I'm happy with it. I think we did great. I kind of thought Katie was far-fetched, but I do think it's great what we picked up. And I also think it's awesome that Harden kind of took smaller contract with the player option to give us more cap space so we still have room
Mhm.
to kind of maneuver around a little bit. I don't think there was much tweaking that necessarily needed to be done. There's minor changes. The Sixers are good. They just didn't have it. They didn't have it. So it's not like we needed to abolish and rebuild like we did the Flyers. So I'm pretty happy it added a little depth this offseason. And I think clearing some cap space is going to do us some good in the future. So far, so good. I'm not unhappy with it. I'll say that.
What do you uh, what do you think Kevin Durant is going to end up with?
God, I wish it was us. Um, I don't know. I just pray to God
Yeah,
it's not Boston.
same.
I pray to God it's not Boston because I don't know that I'll be able to watch basketball if they end up with KD.
Mhm. Yeah, I saw Roach was up at 2 a.m. yesterday. He
Really?
tweeted something about Boston being in the mix for KD.
Yeah. Woj never sleeps, first of all. That guy is always
Yeah.
working. And I would never be able to watch basketball ever again if KD ended up in Boston. I hate the Celtics so much. And I just love Kevin Durant as a player. And I wish we could have him, especially because he's part owner of the Philadelphia Union. I think it'd be awesome just to have him here.
Mhm.
But I know it's not going to happen. But if he goes to Boston, I'm going to be completely shattered.
Boston's already good. They don't need a KD.
They do not. And I'm still mad at them for the whole Horford thing. I don't know what Al Horford we got, but it was not the one that they have.
Mhm. The I definitely like Prince Blue, like just completely destroying uh his sister.
How he fakes being her online.
Yeah, yeah.
I love when he does that. Did you see that he pretended to be that reporter Matt that was fighting with Jamie Adams?
Yeah, yeah,
So good. I love
yeah.
when he does that.
We we definitely have to have him on with us three sometime.
Yes, that would be fun. That would
Yeah,
definitely be fun. There's never a dull moment with Prince. I'll say that.
yeah. He seems a fun guy to be around with.
He's great. He's such a good person, but the laughs are nonstop.
Yeah. So thank you so much for taking the time to come on, and we hope to have you back on soon
Yeah,
to talk Eagles.
absolutely. Once things get rolling, I would love that. That would be awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.